Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. This is mock draft, I believe 4.0 now. Really excited to hop into this, but before I have a couple of points to make. One, this is post Tua Tagovailoa's injury. So yes, his stock is going to fall. He's not going to be in the combine. That's going to drop his stock. He probably will only have like one pro day in front of scouts, so that's going to drop his stock as well. And we're not going to get to see him play on the big stage just one more time, whether it's the bowl game or the playoff. So I'm not saying Tua's a bad quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to drop out of the first round, but he's definitely not going to be a top 10 pick at the moment. We'll see how the rest of the offseason plays out. And then my second point is there is a lot of quarterbacks floating around this free agency. Whether it's Phillip Rivers, who is expected to lead the Chargers, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater. So a lot of these quarterback-needy teams, I think, are going to get guys in free agency because a lot of teams don't trust the draft. They like to have tape on guys who've already played in the NFL, see what they're getting. They know what they're getting. Where the draft, there's a lot of question marks. But regardless, I think if you do think your team needs a quarterback and they don't get it in this mock draft, it's just because I have them getting one in free agency. That's just the bottom line. But regardless, let's get right into it. Starting off with the number 1 overall pick, the Cincinnati Bengals are getting quarterback Joe Burrow out of LSU. Great arm strength, great accuracy, just a leader, so calm and cool under pressure, which I think a lot of rookie quarterbacks are lacking nowadays. And he's had his downs. He was the third string at Ohio State and had to transfer to LSU, and then he didn't have a great season last year. It wasn't a bad season, and then he finally found his groove this season. Probably going to be your Heisman winner and definitely going to be your number 1 overall pick. I do think he's the top quarterback prospect in this class, and boy, does Cincinnati need a quarterback. So I think it's a good fit here, Joe Burrow to the Bengals. With the second overall pick, probably the best player in college football, undisputedly. I mean, I guess you could throw Joe Burrow in there, but Chase Young is just a beast, such an athletic freak, leads college football in sacks. I think he's up to like 17 or 18 now in just like 11 games, which is absurd. Fantastic pass rusher, and also knows how to stop the run. I think the Giants are going to be fantastic with the duo of Leonard Williams and Chase Young if they can get that deal with Leonard Williams done before free agency. But regardless, I'm really excited to see how this all plays out, and I think this is a great fit in New York. With the third overall pick, I have the Miami Dolphins getting Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Great pass blocker, also can run block, open up those lanes for outside zones. He's still my number 1 guy. I know a lot of people have Tristan Wirfs jumping over him, but I do think Andrew Thomas is the best offensive lineman in this class, and boy, do the Dolphins need an offensive lineman. He's going to be their Laramie Tunsil replacement. I'm a big fan of Thomas's, and I think it's a good fit in Miami. With the 4th overall pick, and this pick only happens if Chase Young and Andrew Thomas are off the board, I have the Washington Redskins getting Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver out of Alabama. Probably the best route runner we've seen in a very long time. So elusive, can play that slot role if you need him to, but he's also that deep threat, runs deep posts, deep ins, deep outs very well. Big fan of his, and I think Dwayne Haskins is going to get a great duo here with Terry McLaurin, who they got last year, and then Jerry Jeudy this year. With the 5th overall pick, it's no secret that Garrett Bowles sucks so much for the Denver Broncos. Probably the worst first-round pick in recent history. And the Dolphins really need an offensive tackle to protect who's ever going to be throwing the ball next year. Do they get a quarterback in free agency? Do they try out Drew Lock? There's a lot of questions there, but regardless, I think Tristan Wirfs is very good, a great pass blocker, also great run blocker. Him and Andrew Thomas are very good offensive tackles, and I think Denver definitely needs one, so I like this pick a lot for Denver. With the 6th overall pick, the Falcons have a lot of holes. Their offense is fantastic. I don't think they need to necessarily reach on anything in that aspect in this draft. And I think their defensive line is very underrated. You have Takk McKinley, you have Grady Jarrett, 2 very good players on the defensive line, and then the linebacker Deion Jones is very good. Keanu Neal in the secondary is good, but he's out with injuries constantly, and then there's no really star cornerback on this team. Jeffrey Okudah is going to be that guy for Atlanta. Great ball skills, great in-man coverage, decent zone. He's very good, probably one of the best cornerbacks, since like Denzel Ward. I know that's not too many years ago, but he's still very good. He actually reminds me a lot of Denzel Ward when he was at OSU. So I'm a big fan of OKUDAH's, and I think he'll be a great fit in Atlanta. With the 7th overall pick, I have the Lions getting AJ Epineza, edge rusher out of Iowa. Obviously, they have Trey Flowers. They have Snacks. And then getting AJ Epineza would make that front for the Lions impossible to guard. I mean, Trey Flowers is already very good at getting to the quarterback. Snacks can be that run stopper, but can also apply that pass rushing pressure. And then AJ Epineza is very good. I love what I saw in that Minnesota game. That was the most recent game that I watched of his. Got to the quarterback frequently, applied pressure frequently. And if the Lions get this edge rusher, then this, like I said, that front is going to be very scary for opposing offenses. With the 8th overall pick, I have the Cardinals getting defensive tackle out of Auburn, Derek Brown. Great run stopper, also can get to the quarterback. And I think Chandler Jones has done his job this year in Arizona, but they definitely need someone to take some pressure off of him. Obviously, Terrell Suggs probably isn't going to be around for much longer. So Derek Brown is going to be that next defensive lineman that can really help apply pressure in Arizona, and I think he's a good fit for them. With the 9th overall pick, I have the Jaguars getting Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker out of Clemson. Such a good player, probably the best athlete in this class. He also plays safety, so he's very good in coverage, plays that nickelback role. You can play him there. You can play him as box linebacker. You can also just play him as a regular linebacker. So he's so versatile, so talented, and I think the Jaguars are definitely going to make this guy probably an all-time great. With the 10th overall pick, I have the Jets getting CeeDee Lamb, a wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Another really talented wide receiver here. He's up for wide receiver of the year. They just announced the final 3 finalists. He's in there with Pittman from USC and I believe Jamar Chase from LSU. So great wide receiver, such good hands. He can go up and get the ball. He plays like he's 6'7". I think he's only like 6'2" or 6'3". But regardless, great speed. And can also play the slot role if the Jets need him there. So I think it's a great target for Sam Darnold and can really elevate this Jets offense. The 11th overall pick, and I like this pick a lot. It's no secret that it appears the Los Angeles Chargers are moving on from quarterback Phillip Rivers after his long tenure there. It just doesn't seem like he's a fit there anymore, And Tennessee has showed a lot of interest in him, so he'll probably go over to the Titans in free agency because it doesn't seem like he wants to stop playing the game just yet. But with the lack of Chargers' success right now throwing the football, I think Justin Herbert can bring some youth into this team. Now, he has the arm strength. It's probably the best in the class, but the accuracy isn't there. He's pretty raw. I'm not saying he has bad accuracy, but it's not like Joe Burrow level or even Tua Tagovailoa level. So I think Justin Herbert has stuff to work on, but I feel like Anthony Lynn, the Chargers head coach, will invest that time, and he can really become a star quarterback in this league. With the 12th overall pick, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting their cornerback of the future after cutting Vernon Hargreaves. They definitely need some help in the secondary. And this is one of the teams I was talking about that definitely is probably going to need a new quarterback. We'll probably get one in free agency. I could see Teddy Bridgewater moving here. I could see them trading for Mitchell Trubisky. But regardless, they definitely need secondary help. And Christian Fulton is a very good corner out of LSU. I think it's a great fit. With the 13th overall pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles getting Grant Delpit, safety out of LSU. You could argue that the Eagles wide receiver core is their most glaring need. But I'd say their secondary is. You obviously have Malcolm Jenkins, who's old but still good, still reliable. But other than that, there's no real playmakers on this Philadelphia secondary, and I think Grant Delpit brings some versatility that Philadelphia really hasn't seen in many years. And I'm a big fan of his. He can play nickelback if you need him, that slot corner role. Great in coverage, but he's also he has great vision. He sees the field very well, so he knows when it's a run. He can move up and make those big hits that you really need out of a safety. So I'm a big fan of Grant, and I think he'll be a good fit in Philadelphia. With the 14th overall pick, I have the Raiders getting speed burner Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. This pick they received from the Bears in that Khalil Mack trade. Henry Ruggs is a fantastic wide receiver, fastest wide receiver in the class, a great route runner, and I think he's going to be a great fit in Las Vegas. With a 15th overall pick, it's no secret that Baker Mayfield is getting pressured every play. He has to get rid of the ball. It leads to him making bad decisions. So I think Alex Leatherwood is a very good player here. This is probably a reach, but regardless, the Browns do need an offensive tackle, so it just makes sense that they would take him. With the 16th overall pick, I have the Carolina Panthers getting JAVON, KINLAW, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Really good run stopper. Probably the best defensive tackle run stopper in college football. His stock is rising week in and week out. He's so talented. Love to watch him work. And I think Cincinnati desperately needs some interior help on that defensive line. And I think JAVON KINLAW is their guy. With the 17th overall pick, I have the Las Vegas Raiders getting their linebacker of the future, Dylan Moses, beast out of Alabama. Tore his ACL at the start of the season, didn't play this year, but from what I've seen on tape from him last year, he is fantastic, so much fun to watch. Great in pass coverage too. Not only a great run stopper, but he can also cover the tight ends and the running backs out of the backfield. So I think this is a John Gruden type of guy, hard hitter, smart player, leader, and I think he's going to be a good fit in Las Vegas. With the 18th overall pick, I have Indianapolis Colts getting interior defensive lineman RAEKWON Davis. He can either play 3-4 end or just defensive tackle. Really good run stopper, not the best pass rusher, but regardless, I think Indianapolis desperately needs some interior help on that line, and I really like this pick for them. With the 19th overall pick, this pick is going to make the Tennessee Titans defense pretty scary. You already have a guy like Jaylen Brown, a linebacker. Harold Landry is really coming into his own as an edge rusher. So why not put another great outside linebacker in this 3-4 defense? KLAW CHAISSON. He's probably the best edge rusher, if you want to call him that, in coverage in this draft. He can really play the middle linebacker, sub linebacker role. Get out in coverage, make plays on running backs, and even tight ends if you need him to. But he's also good at getting to the quarterback. If you watch that Alabama game, his name was called a lot. He played very well versus Bama. I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's a good fit in Tennessee. With the 20th overall pick, I have the Jaguars getting their wide receiver of the future, LAVISKA SHENAULT out of Colorado. D.D. Westbrook and Marquise Lee have been underwhelming, to say the least. DJ Chark is really playing well this season, but getting a deep threat and a big receiver like LAVISKA SHENAULT is going to make Nick Foles' life a lot easier next year. So I really like this pick out of Jacksonville. With the 21st overall pick, I think the Cowboys' most glaring need right now is safety, and Xavier McKinney, besides Grant Delpit, is the best safety in this class. Big fan of his, and I think he's a great fit in Dallas. With the 22nd overall pick, the Miami Dolphins get their quarterback of the future, Tua Tagovailoa. Like I said, his stock is going to draft. He's not going to participate in the combine due to his injury, which is sad to hear. But regardless, the Dolphins need a quarterback. They need a franchise leader, and they already got someone to protect him. Probably the best offensive tackle in this class, Andrew Thomas in this mock. So why not put Tua here at 22? He has great accuracy, great arm strength. People say he gets carried by his receivers. That might be true. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes from playing with guys like Jerry Jeudy, Eric Waddle, Devontae Smith, and Henry Ruggs to guys like Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. And I'm not saying these wide receivers are bad because they've already made it to the NFL, so they must be doing something right. But Tua's going to have to do a lot more by himself next year. He's not going to be cradled and, have all-star, 5-star recruit talent around him. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays in the NFL. Regardless, I'm a fan of his. Wishing him a speedy recovery, and I think he's a good fit in Miami. With the 23rd overall pick, and this pick is going to make the Chiefs offense unfair, I'm going to get Jonathan Taylor, running back out of Wisconsin, best running back in this class. I don't care if you want to say DeAndre Swift or Travis Etienne. You're wrong. Jonathan Taylor has done it yearly, been up for running back of the year yearly for 3 years since he was a freshman. Heisman contention every year. Just an overall beast. Fantastic running back. Big fan of his, and he's going to make a splash in Kansas City. With the 24th overall pick, I have Trevon Diggs, definitely the best slot quarterback in this class. Big fan of his, and the Vikings really need a cornerback at the moment. Xavier Rhodes is up there in age, and I really can't name any other corners on this team. The only really other person I can name in the secondary is Harrison Smith, who's obviously probably the best safety, or at least one of the best safeties in the NFL. But regardless, Trevon Diggs is going to be a good fit in Minnesota. They need secondary, and he's going to help them out a lot. With the 25th overall pick, I'm getting the Dolphins their edge rusher. They already got it, their offensive tackle and quarterback, so now they need to move to the defensive side of the ball, and Curtis Weaver is that guy out of Boise State. And I know he plays in a Group of 5 division. He's not in a Power 5 conference, but regardless, he's second in college football, obviously behind Chase Young in sacks, and he does it every year. And I know he doesn't play versus like great offensive linemen, but neither did Khalil Mack. I mean, he was at Buffalo, played subpar competition, and was picked 4th overall. So I'm not saying Curtis Weaver is near Khalil Mack's level, but still has been consistent throughout his entire career. Definitely worthy of a first-round pick. And I really like this pick for Miami. With the 26th overall pick, I have the Bills getting their leader of their offensive line. They're lacking a guy who's outspoken, who will really tell this team what to do, or sorry, this offensive line group what to do and when to do it. And I think Tyler BIADASZ is that guy. Great lineman out of Wisconsin, very talented, really good run blocker, and can also protect Josh Allen a little bit. So I really like this pick for Buffalo. With the 27th overall pick, I have the Green Bay Packers getting Justin Jefferson, wide receiver out of LSU. He's top 5 in receiving yards, I think like top 10 in touchdowns. Fantastic receiver. He's no Jamar Chase, but regardless, he's very explosive, great route runner, and I think his stock will continue to rise as the season progresses. Big fan of his, and I think this offense is going to be scary with Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Jamar Jefferson. With the 28th overall pick, and I kind of did this pick for the storyline because if you can name another Stanford cornerback out who went to Seattle in the draft, Richard Sherman, it's almost shockingly similar. These guys are very similar players. I'm not saying Paulson Demo is near Richard Sherman's level, but definitely has the potential to be. I mean, he's really good in coverage, kind of a do-it-all cornerback, zone man, whatever you need from him. Very disciplined. And I think Seattle really needs a cornerback. I'm not a fan of Shaquem Griffins. He gets burned every play. Trey Flowers is good, but he's not the fastest. And I think Paulson Adebo is a good fit in Seattle. With the 29th overall pick, I have the Saints getting T. Higgins, wide receiver out of Clemson. It is a reach, but I feel like Drew Brees needs another receiving threat. Traquan Smith is good, but kind of young and raw still. And obviously you have Michael Thomas, who's probably the best receiver in the NFL. You can challenge me on that if you want, but he does it. Like I was saying about Jonathan Taylor in college, Michael Thomas does it year in and year out. So consistent, so good. But I'm not going to go on my Michael Thomas rant just yet. And then, of course, Ted Ginn is getting golden age. So I really like T. Higgins. Hasn't had the best year, but neither has Trevor Lawrence, so that could probably contribute to T. Higgins' lack of success this year. Still in the 700s in yards and plus 10 touchdowns, so he's a very good wide receiver. I think he's a good fit in New Orleans. With a 30th overall pick, I have the Ravens getting their guy to go alongside Matthew Judon, getting after the quarterback. YETUR Matos, also a really good run stopper, especially if they play 3-4 in Baltimore. And I'm a big fan of YETUR's. He played very well versus that Ohio State offensive line, was in the backfield often, and I think he's really fast off the ball, great release, and I think he'll be a good fit in Baltimore. With the 31st overall pick, I have the San Francisco 49ers getting Creed Humphrey, interior offensive line out of Oklahoma. Really good player, can protect the quarterback, also really good, does a really good job at opening up run lanes for guys like Tevin Coleman and Matthew Breida. So I'm a big fan of his, and I think he'll be a good fit in San Francisco. And now finally, the 32nd overall pick. I've heard second round. I've heard third round. But regardless, Jalen Hurts, quarterback out of Oklahoma, is fantastic in Heisman contention, in Maxwell contention. I mean, he's so good with his legs, so good with his arm. And I've said this in past mock drafts, but there's a part of me that thinks Bill Belichick, watching that Patriots versus Ravens game, watching Lamar Jackson run all over him, is wondering what he needs to do in this new era of the NFL to succeed. And I think he's going to pull the trigger on Jalen Hurts. I think Tom Brady is either going to retire next year or maybe they'll re-sign him to a one-year deal. But regardless, that will just give Jalen Hurts time to grow and improve under Tom Brady. Or if they decide to start him right away, I think he can play very well, especially under the discipline of Bill Belichick. So I really like this pick for the Patriots. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's edition of the mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disagreements with me. It happens every time. But please feel free to leave your comments. I'll try to respond to you with my explanations and my opinions on all these things. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. If you want to see more NFL/college football content, of course, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.